Okay, thank you, Chris and Misha, the Compass Foundation, for having me, and welcome to my colleague, Nigel Moses from Arima. Um, the experience for me was that I worked with two members of parliament for 9 years, with Mr. Gypsy Peters for 7 and Mr. Rushton Parry, the president deputy for 2. So that experience has transcended to local government in terms of community service, public service, and representation. So taking it to this new level, which is not really new, because at the parliamentary level it's broad-based, and I also had that tenure in government to do a number of things on behalf of the member of parliament for the people. So the experience was that I would have built some stable, steady relationships with thousands of individuals and families, not only the district of Rio Claro South, which is very dear and intimate to me, but across the constituency and the region. And also too, my whole life has been in community service, service to humanity, culture, the arts, and volunteerism and other activities. So it was easy for me to fit in. However, of course, the anxiety to do so much and the passion to deliver and get things going, of course, you would bounce up the hurdles, the obstacles of bureaucracy, the system being somewhat slow in many instances for simple things. And of course, we go on that later on. But that experience with the two members of parliament at that level has prepared me significantly. And again, as I said, I live this. It's my life. It's not an 8 to 4 job.
Of course, we would like to know some of your greatest accomplishments and perhaps challenges, but let's start with the good news first. What would have been some of your accomplishments during your tenure as a councillor?
Well, okay, so as a councillor, is infrastructure. And of course, the system also provides and facilitates scavenging and sewer services. But in terms of infrastructure, which is the core remit, I was happy to undertake more than 30 significant projects that would have had some tangible impact on people's lives, road improvement, rehabilitation, drainage, bridge access, retaining walls, of course, people's property being impacted and so on. And also at the council level, as the former chairman of the Committee on Culture and the Arts and so on, I was able to also revamp the promotion and facilitation of cultural activities in the region by also being a director with an NGO. So I merged that with the resources of the corporation to also raise the profile of the corporation in that area. You asked me about challenges.
Yeah.
Well, the challenges, again, as I said, would be the anxiety to do so much, and there's always some stumbling block. And then we go into the common thread of the limited resources or the tardy release of resources, the septic truck breaking down regular, and people calling for the service. It's overwhelming, there's that backlog, and that recurrent decimal, of course, has had some challenges because, as I said, based on the demand for quality service and more service, people really don't want to hear the truck breakdown or this part missing. And those minor things, as I said, you feel like you fail, but the system, as I said, and the systemic issues are bigger than the one individual councillor or council.
So, David, we want to touch on that in a little bit more detail a little later on in the program, because we know that a common complaint of councillors, especially the UNC councillors, is that they're starved for funds to properly service the needs of their burgesses, right? And I want to touch on that a little later, but let's focus on Nigel. Nigel, I know you're having some difficulties hearing, but is it clearer now that you're hearing us clear?
Yes, it's clear. And good night to everyone. I
Good
humbly
night, Nigel.
apologize. You will be getting some background noise because in this LGE, I'm on the ground as we speak. If you look to the rear of me, that's a meeting is going on with Mr. Brian Big and my campaign team. So I'm working as we're interviewing. So it's going to be interesting.
Yes, well, I'm so glad that you still were able to take the time to do this program for us, right? And it's an opportunity for the audience to see you live in action as a counselor. I take it you're going to be probably interacting with some of your burgesses. So we get to see Nigel Moses as the future counselor of Arima Central. But I want to ask you a question, and I know this is a question that is going to be on the minds of the members of our audience. You are going up for a very contentious district in Arima Central, right? And what makes that contentious, as I would have said in my introduction, is the person who would have held the seat previously, Sheldon Fish Garcia. He would have held the district as a UNC counselor. And he would have, as we all know, gone to the PNM, and he is now fighting for the district under the PNM. I want to ask you, as a newcomer, what do you think your chances are against Sheldon Fish Garcia, who, from what I understand, is a bit of a legend in Arima Central?
Well, I don't know when you say legend, probably he have became a legend being a traitor. But before he wasn't a legend, he's known to the burgesses. I must admit, he worked diligently with the support of the United National Congress. The issue I'm having is that just like everyone else with your intent and concept after making your decision to go over to the PNM, you start to lambaste the same party that was giving you the support and start to say now that they weren't giving you any support. That is why you went across, which is untrue. A couple of the business owners in the area are very disgruntled with regards to his accusations and allegations. Now, my chances is very, very strong because people would have identified that not only that I've been in the military for 24 years, I haven't made any promises, unlike my predecessor who made promises that, of course, he did not keep, right? The promise that I'm making to my burgesses is that I'll make myself available and easily accessible and afford the community to work with me. Although I'm working for the community, there's a number of people that are interested and waiting for me to come on board to work with me for the betterment of the community, right? And my catchphrase is enough is enough, right? We have been dancing left and right around the reality of what PNM has done. Arima Central has suffered tremendously, and we treating with burgesses that roof is leaking, that working for disability, and that could have been done easily by the councillor. We have achieved those objectives in 2 weeks. He was there for 18 months. So enough is enough. It's ridiculous.
You want to tell us a little bit more about that, how you achieved those objectives in 2 weeks when he wasn't able to in the last 3.5 years?
Right. Well, what is happening is that first and foremost, I was always helping people from before I came into politics, right? When I retired from the military, I identified I had to give back to the youth development. I looked for areas that was more crime-ridden. I targeted areas, Beetham, Sealats, Mova, Laventille, Barataria, San Juan, Belmont, East Dry River. I found a club called Trinidad and Tobago Maestro Football Institute. I worked alongside the coach, Mr. Sheldon De Freitas, and then became the director, physio, and first responder. Identifying the issues with the youth, I realized that mentorship program could be transferred from wherever to where I wanted to be. I went on doing passport forms, treating with individuals who have issues with national insurance because of the experience my godmother would have had. So I knew the system, right? Most of the forms, you just have to have it. If you don't have it, you download it online and the process is simple. The explanation online is simple. What tends to happen is the leaving the Burgesses up to them doing it, just like the average Trinidadian, they tend to lay back on their laurels and don't achieve it. So sometimes you have to light fire below them. You have to go with them. Day before yesterday, I went to social welfare with one of the Burgesses, and he's going tomorrow to Mount Hope to get the relevant documentation. Of course, for privacy purposes, I wouldn't call any names, but he's going to get the relevant documentation, and then he has to go back to social welfare next week, Wednesday, upon which the documentation will go through and wait for approval. So there are things that can be done, right? And it's not that difficult. Sometimes you have to lead individuals to give them the opportunity to achieve what they have to achieve. We're working with persons that presently 1 year and they haven't received their NIS because they haven't even filed the forms. And why isn't it that they were informed of downloading the forms and filling out the relevant forms? I'm dealing with Burgesses as we speak to fill out their passport forms, right? Because of being a past member of Defense Force, I'm authorized based on my rank, and being a business owner, I am also authorized. So these are a lot of these things that the Burgesses are looking to. Even the ACH program for the elderly, right? On mornings, I'm in Arima between the hours of 4 and 6, and the lines are already long waiting for 8 a.m. for the banks to open on the 1st and the 15th. They have already served their time. Why do we have the elderly standing in long lines, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, waiting for the bank to open to get their funds, right? That is some of the areas that I'm treating with, but that is why I said it's easy to be dealt with. Most of those things I have already put together as programs, and a couple of the Burgesses I already works with to achieve the objectives with regards to some of the outstanding issues that they have. And those issues didn't come in 2 or 3 weeks. Those issues have been there for years.
Very
But it
interesting.
sounds to me as though you're going beyond the call of local governments, in that you're not just meeting the infrastructural needs, but you're also assisting them and wherever the service can arise to the Burgesses within the area. I want to know, did you experience any challenges so far in campaigning? Because of course you are campaigning in a seat that would have been the former mayor's seat. The mayor of the Arima Corporation would have won the seat of W. O'Meara. Now she's in the parliament. There was a by-election under the United National Congress. Sheldon Garcia would have won. So it's a very interesting seat from a mayor, MP, UNC, now turned PNM, and now you are contesting it. So have you experienced any challenges there? Because we're hearing that the Arima Corporation is a very contentious sort of campaign and corporation right now. So have you experienced any challenges campaigning so far?
Of course, in any campaign, no matter how smooth, or I'm a coordinator, right? I've done a lot of coordination and leadership in the Defense Force, right? And I have never had experience in politics. So the challenges that I would have may be a little bit different in the sense that I did a lot of learning in the early aspect of the campaign that have paid off. And now my challenge is there's not enough sunshine for me to take this full whitewash of the campaign. The only challenge I have presently is the rain. Reason being, one of the tech that what has happened is that Fish's secretary, knowing the Burgesses and knowing the good he would have done, and also knowing the pain that he would have caused, veered me in the right direction. One of the persons that we worked with today, that is that's suffering from paralysis, is one of the people that was promised, and Fish never returned. So we went to the places and areas of where fish burnt his bridges, right? And even the places that he worked expeditiously for are very much disappointed. So the challenges I have is almost minuscule, right? That's stating facts. Individuals have believed in him for the person he was, and they are disappointed because they have came forward and show his lack of integrity. And he moved across to PNM and actually stating that he was always PNM, right? It's so ridiculous that his email address presently still is sheldongarciaunc@gmail.com. That's ridiculous, right? His Facebook page still has all that he blasts PNM with. So what is he? So my challenges is almost minuscule. People are coming to me with these issues, and when I go up, I didn't go and search, I didn't research. They are coming to me and pointing me in that direction, right? So I have little or no challenges actually.
Well, Nigel, I want to tell you, and I also want to tell the audience, even in San Fernando, that level of confusion with Burgesses is, of course, happening. Of course, many persons would have known that in San Fernando, there would have been a crossover with a UNC council. But it's interesting, Nigel, that you said that he's not working, and he has said and stated that he has always been a PNM, and I guess, well, it makes sense. If you've always been a PNM and you're not working, then I know that would qualify for PNM leadership. And so now getting down into PNM in actions, we have a PNM central government, Mr. Law. And of course, there's a complaint by the UNC that y'all are starved for funds in the corporations. How did this affect you? First of all, before we get in, do you really agree with that? Do you agree that when the UNC complains that, or I would say advocates for more funding, they want more funding, we starve for funds, the complaint is that Diego Martin and Port of Spain, they get more funding than some other corporations. Do you agree with that? And if you do agree with that, how did you navigate that issue and still be of service for the Burgesses within Rio Claro South?
Okay, so it's a real issue. It's a common thread across most corporations, and particularly the UNC and, of course, the rural-based regional corporations, Pinal Debe and Siperi and so on, Princess Town. And the statistics would show the inequity in the distribution of allocations and resources to the corporations. So that has plagued the system for many years. And more so, of course, when PNM is in government, they are very vicious with that level of geographic discrimination. When we are in government, the People's Partnership and UNC, we try to be more equal and equitable. In terms of the impact of that, yes, I'll give an example. In one fiscal year, we got allocated $115,000 for road building materials. We have over 500 roads and traces. So it's incredible, it's impossible, it's pathetic, it's, how is this happening? It's beyond discrimination. So that it impacts upon the routine and regular maintenance of road and traces, minor works, and even internal minor construction is suppressed. In a fiscal year, in the last 3 years, I can tell you internal.
I think David froze.
Yes,
Okay.
regular development program, public sector investment program, which is once a year, and of course the money has to be used up before the end of the financial year. But when I have 10 land slips in my district. Of course, we won't get resources for all 10, but I can start with half. And then there are the issues of, and it's the same recurring decimal in other corporations, the aging fleet and machinery and equipment where you don't get parts and timely, you don't get releases for that. So the water truck is down regular months into months. The septic truck that does that very critical public health service is also impacted negatively. So yes, our corporations have been and continue to be starved because of the fact the PNM, their whole mindset is political discrimination and oppression against UNC corporations. And we would have also seen anytime PNM comes into government, like when the Pandey was there and Mrs. Prasad Bissessa, we dealt with rural neglect and, opening up, developing all the rural areas and so on. PNM comes in, rural neglect returns.
Now, I want to get to something here, and it's the big topic of property tax. Of course, the current government, the PNM, they are campaigning on local government reform.
Right.
Now, Mr. Law, you would, and I want to throw this question out to both the panelists. Now, you would have spoken about direct service to your burgesses. You spoke about infrastructure, drainage, retaining walls, land slips. I know you are big into culture, and your culture committee foundation, of course. Mr. Moses is already on the ground servicing the people in his best way. Of course, you expanded on helping your residents navigate technology and signing up for certain forms, etc. So, what are your views on local government reform? And of course, I know that you both are campaigning. So what are the persons within the area of Arima Central and also Rio Claro South? What do they have to say? What is the feedback that you are getting from the ground? Are persons in favor? Are they not in favor? Are you in favor? Are you not in favor of property tax? Yes, that's how it is.
So the reality is the touting of local government reform has been in the air for a few days.
David, you're muted right now. You're muted. So you need to unmute yourself.
I don't think, David, are you hearing us? You're muted. I don't think he's hearing us.
We can't hear you.
Let me see.
Hello?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, we're now hearing you. So perhaps you could start over your answer about property tax. We weren't hearing.
Sorry, we didn't hear you. You went mute for a few minutes. Well, so you'd have to restart that response. All right, we might need to give David just a few minutes there.
You all hear me now?
You're hearing you now.
I
Perfectly.
think I was getting impacted by somebody trying to get me on WhatsApp. You heard
All
my,
right.
do I need to rewind?
Yes, rewind.
Yes.
So what I'm saying is local government reform has been touted for decades. I remember the draft paper on local government reform in 1983 through the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development. We had a number of white green papers on all these things. Yes, there's a need to overhaul the systems. It's overdue. There's a lot of bureaucracy for a number of simple things. The levels of management is somewhat impotent in some areas, and it needs to be a little more aggressive in terms of dealing with certain issues of productivity, which is another issue, because there's a mindset also in local government of the 7 to 9 and you go home. And yes, I don't want to get into industrial relations, negotiations and so on, but there's a need for more productivity, enhanced productivity. So there's also the issue of agent plant, machinery, equipment. And we cannot, going forward as a country into the millennium, have to be looking to buy a little part for this and the truck to roll. And, we had to get out of that mindset. So all people are really concerned on the ground is improving the quality of service delivery. Whether what law or what you call it, or or reform, how will the service delivery improve for their taxpayer dollar? Right? You hear me?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, absolutely.
So for me, the little that I've seen in the last 8 years, okay, they hire some municipal police, and that is all over the place. At our level, I can tell you, without being biased and unfair, the municipal police, they are not fixed on our facilities and assets. What the political leader, Mrs. Kamala Prasad is speaking to, is what the municipal police should be doing already. The schools and other safety issues, they are fixed on fixed penalty notices. That's an obsession. The litter wardens that they were hired, great employment and environment. In our region, no one has been charged in the last 3 years in terms of the reports I've been asking for, with all the dumping, illegal dumping and so on. So I'm saying all people are really concerned about is how can the level of service delivery be enhanced, improved, and transformed. And the buck stops with us as the first responders, but the system, as I said, is bigger than us, and it really is in urgent need of overhaul and revamp and rehabilitation.
Okay, David, thank you for that answer. I would like to just welcome everyone who joined us across all of our social media channels. I think we have, the last time I checked, close to 100 people who are live with us. So welcome everybody, and please share the live. We have with us on set here, David Law, the UNC local government election candidate for Rio Claro South. David Law, the UNC local government election candidate for Rio Claro South. And Mr. Nigel Moses, the UNC local government election candidate for Arima Central. So they're having a great conversation here with us tonight. So please share the live. Now, I just want to go to Nigel. Now, Nigel. Nigel, question for you. How is the atmosphere there in Arima?
It's very good.
Well, listen to the background. Listen to the background. Listen to the background. That's the atmosphere.
In the meeting.
That is the atmosphere. Right now, we're on the train line. People say that they can't come on the train line after 7. Nonsense. We'll be on the train line. It's irrelevant. We'll be on the train line.
So you're there on the train line for what? Is it a spot meeting going on right now?
Yes, I am. And I apologize for not apologizing for it, because we have to work with all the Burgesses. We need the Burgesses to even listen to the interview. If they are not online, they are here listening to you all, listening to the concerns that David experiencing in Rio Claro. It's not that different from the concerns that we have in Arima Central here, right? It's not different from the concerns in Malabar South, Malabar North, Arima Northeast, Arima West, Omera, Tumpuna, Calvary. Most of the concerns transcend across Trinidad and Tobago. Everyone you're hearing, it's mosquito, crime, lack of youth development, lack of sports, disrespect by the government, lies by the government. It hasn't changed. So what David's speaking about there is the same concerns we have here with the Burgesses that are seated at the meeting at present.
Nigel, I want to ask you a question. Now, you were in the Coast Guard before, if my memory serves me correctly, right? You were in the Coast Guard. So you're completely new to local governments.
Yes.
Why did you choose local government, and in particular the UNC?
Well, joining the Coast Guard in 1992, June the 20th, the intent was always to serve. I never had the intention of joining Coast Guard. I was doing engineering and went on the job training in Coast Guard, got the experience, and I got wowed. I was wowed and joined the Coast Guard. Since then, I have always pushed and elevated myself to better the environment. I went on to be in Special Forces, went on to intelligence. I veered in the direction of the Special Anti-Crime Unit, went on to be the advisor to the commanding officer, and then retired. When I retired, the intent was to give back to the youths, as I said, right? And I went on to go into youth development with regards to football. But I realized it couldn't end there. I could work with the youth, but we have a present, clear and present danger, which is the lack of community development. So the only way I could have achieved that is to get into local government. And my intention, if you identify my history, my intention wouldn't end there, because my intention is to get into central government.
Okay. And what do you hope to do? Let us say you are victorious on August the 15th. What is your plan for Arima Central?
All right. Well, unlike the PNM, who has no mandate, no plan, and no policy, I'll send out the relevant documentations, which I would have done previously for a school called St. Aidan's in Aruka. I would get the public relations and communications departments of the Army, Coast Guard, Police, Fire, Prisons, Customs to come and engage with the youths, to give them an eye-opener with regards to career intents and concepts. What happens is some persons believe that, okay, they may be an accountant, and the mother might say, well, okay, I could get into the police force. And they would say, well, mommy, I don't want to go there, I want to be an accountant. But you cannot be an accountant in the police service. You could be an accountant in any one of the military and or paramilitary or protective services, right? That's just an example. So I'm bringing them on to get the careers going. So the youths that, to keep them off of the street, to give them a starter to know, well, okay, I need to work forward or work hard because I want to get into fire service, I want to get in prisons, as the case may be, right? There's a lot of issues. One of these things I'm bringing on board as well is the homework centers. Since the COVID, our educational system has transcended in the opposite direction. Thanks. Have transcended in a downward spiral, right? We have kids that have not gone back out to school since COVID. No one is asking why. No one is going to the schools to ask the principals to get a listing of the children that have not come back to school or the children that have punctuality issues. Some of the issues may just be financial, right? And the parents are so embarrassed that they will get their preferences to keep them at home, right? They're probably not in a position to purchase the school books. So we have to treat with those issues. So we need to have homework centers. We need to get into the homes to identify or speak with the parents of the kids who are not going to school. We need to get youth development back up and running, right? We need to get workshops running to teach children trade. We need to get sporting activities, because that is another one on the downward spiral. We have savannas all over, not only in Arima, but all over Trinidad and Tobago that are overgrown. We went to a community meeting 2 weeks ago, and the mayor had the audacity to say that they can't cut it because it's raining. And I want to know if the rain is falling every day, right? We had a lot of dry spells. And then when you speak with him, then he's saying that the equipment is down. Come on, speak the truth to your burgesses, speak the truth to your communities. People don't understand if you're under pressure, but don't lie to them. We need to get the sporting activities up and running. We need to get the community centers, although they don't fall under local government, we need to get the community centers active as community centers. Yeah. How can you tell me that in order to use a community center in Marabella or Malabar or Malabar North or wherever, you have to pay for it? That makes no sense. It's illogical, right? Other than that, we have the ACH program that I'm researching at present, because as I said, between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m., people should pass in Arima between those hours. Most of the time, people home. They're now looking to jump in their vehicle to hit the highway to go to work. But pass through Arima, and you'll see the people that when we were little children, the people that was working and keeping this country up and running. Now you're seeing them lining up on the 1st and the 15th for the pension and NAS around the bank, straight into the hot sun. That is ridiculous. And there are ACH programs that someone just have to take the time in order to teach them, set up workshops in the community centers, go into the communities, teach them, so the funding could go direct to their account. And they don't have to go to change a check and stand up in a line for hours, right? We have the
e-tax system. Yes, it's online, but most of the persons are not technologically inclined. So I'm dealing with individuals now that have not paid, that have not filed tax for years. And it's not to say that if they file that they will be the government. If they, sorry about that, someone, yeah.
That's all
If
right.
they file, it's not that they own the government. Most of them, when they file, the government is owing them, but they don't even know how to start to file. So we'll have workshops with regards to that, right? We need to have legal aid workshops. We have individuals that do not have a clue of their constitutional rights, and people are abusing them. And Mr. Brian Big just stated, now being the lawyer in our environment here, he is saying that he is standing by my side to give legal advice and guidance and counsel, because I already spoke with him with an issue with a Burgess who got in an accident. And I'm saying this outright, Guardian Life, stand by, because you are dancing and trying to avoid paying the funds for a particular individual. I am coming at you. I am coming at you, Guardian Life. Find out my phone number and call me immediately to avoid this embarrassment. So we have a lot of policies and programs. We have a lot that is tied into central government and local. With regards to being in charge of the council, we'll be doing a lot of applications to the Ministry of Local Government in order for them to get off their, I wouldn't say the word, but to get up and perform.
Yeah.
Well, I see you're getting a loud round of applause in the background there. So I don't have to tell you, how great that response was, right? You sound like you're ready and you're raring to go. I have one more question before we go to David. So how would you respond to a person who will tell you, like, let's say on the street, right? You would have been walking about meeting your Burgesses and so on.
Yeah.
And people may have said to you, yeah, we've seen you now, but after the election, we ain't gonna see you again. How would you respond to that?
Well, I didn't get the opportunity to respond because that is part of my conversation. I grew up just like everyone else, that councillors and parliamentarians and came around, and then after you wouldn't have seen them. I got that experience. So I'm ensuring that they don't have to experience that. So before they have to ask me, I explain to them comprehensively that not only that you're seeing me in Arima Central, which they have seen me so far very often, right? I've been walking every day for the past 9 weeks, right? I've been walking very much for the past 9 weeks, and they have been seeing me a lot. They are coming out to greet me now, and before they would have shook my hand by the gate. Now I'm inside having conversations, right? If you look around, at present we're having a meeting in the garage of one of my Burgesses, which is something that would have been unheard of probably about 9 weeks ago, right? So I'm speaking to them. I'm being proactive. I've always been proactive, being militant. So I'm letting them know from in front what I would have experienced when I was growing up. I'm trying my utmost best to ensure that they don't experience it. They will have to tell me that they're fed up seeing me and give them a break.
All right. And we have all of this recorded, huh? Recorded. So,
You don't want that fish again.
what I'm seeing here, somebody says trouble in Arima. Mr. Nigel Moses looks like a good, strong fisherman, a winner. So kudos to you. Right now, guys, just doing a quick time check here. It is 8:43, so we want to get into the Q&A and open mic. So I'm going to invite anyone who wants to make a contribution to raise your hand. If you have any questions, you can put it on the chat, or you could raise your hand and ask it yourself. So please, ladies and gentlemen who have joined us on the Zoom, feel free. Chris, I don't know if you've been looking at the social media to see if there are any questions.
I did read another comment though. I read
Okay.
someone said, we heard of money flowing in San Fernando at this time and vacancies being advertised in Siparia. So again, election gimmicks, and we'll see more of that to come, so yeah.
All right, so going across to David now, right? Now, David, I want to ask you, you were the counselor for the last 3.5 years. You were selected again to be the candidate, so you must have been doing something right. Why do you think you are the best candidate for that district?
All right, so as I said, I have worked, served, and lived in the district for more than the district, the region, and the constituency for more than 12 years. And in the district itself, I would have had a healthy interaction with a number of families and individuals. As I said, through working with the Member of Parliament, being involved in culture and other community activities. Having had that level of experience, being a very strong and passionate advocate for community people issues and service delivery, I live it. And having had the experience over the last 3 years and 5 months, and already started some significant work interacting with energy-based companies, the business community also having a very strong relationship with the business community and other community groups. I believe that I am best suited. I am very composed. I am very genuine and real in my approach to deal with all aspects. What I tell people do is, I may be imperfect, the system also be imperfect, but I will just continue to try to do my best and to be real in how I relate the issues of representation. My colleagues and other persons in the corporation could tell you without boasting that I have championed almost every issue on behalf of my burgesses and the region at large. I don't hold back. I'm very fearless. I'm very, top of my game. And I believe, as I said, based on that relationship, that rapport, that experience, I will, of course, improve my game in terms of the level of representation as required in this so-called new reform. At the end of the day, we know the basic tenets would remain in terms of our core functions and responsibilities. In addition to infrastructure, I am prepared. I have never abandoned the struggle for people's representation. And I have been visible for the last 3 years and 5 months, especially in the COVID period, which was the darkest, most uncertain times. I was able to go deep on the ground and reach out to many, many families across the political spectrum. I don't really see that. And, people need to understand that at that level, I was highly visible and interactive. Yes, there were restrictions and prohibitions and so on based on the virus and the public health restrictions, but I continue to remain visible, and people know that I'm very approachable, and they can rely and count on my experience and advocacy. So, all things being equal, I'm also letting people know that, yes, we have been in control of the corporation. Yes, the PNM is the central government, and people need to understand the tragic state of affairs. Whether people are trying to buy people because it's happening in our area, they're trying to buy votes and so on, and campaign on that, no real issues. People need to understand the tragic state of affairs. Large sections of the community still an unreliable, irregular supply of pipe-borne water. The roads are most deplorable, and all the promises and all the secondary road companies and so on, it's not happening. Social services is also in a decadent state, and rural neglect has returned to our communities based on the maybe policy of the PNM government. So I continue to be a voice, a strong voice, not a boastful voice, and I continue to maintain that positive relationship with all the people, not just the UNC supporters.
So, David, you've been campaigning for the last few weeks. I know you have because I've been seeing the activity on social media. What kind of response are you getting on the ground?
All right, so let me just say, back in 2019, when I got involved, I had the love and connect of the strong elder families of the district and the UNC families. Within the last few weeks of campaigning, I was able to reconnect with them, and that support has been consolidated. In going across, I hope to conclude the first round of house field canvassing by maybe weekend, and then just go back by a few families randomly who we missed out. I'm confident that the support base of the UNC is solidified. People are conscious. People also are aware of my efforts and some of the infrastructural achievements based on infrastructure or pyramid. And they know David Law can only continue to try and do his best.
And I know you personally, and I know David Law always does his best. Ladies and gentlemen, vote this man in again for Councillor of Rio Claro South. You're not going wrong. You can't go wrong there. Right? I want to hail out Renelle Kassoon, Miss Renelle Kassoon, the candidate for Kokal Mafakin, another great candidate, and she was on our program, I believe, maybe about 3 weeks ago. She is on our live, so I just want to say hello to Renelle and thank her for joining us. We are looking at 8:50, so we're going to wrap up, as I said, between 9 and 9:30, right? A question for the both of you, and maybe Nigel, you could take it first. What are your predictions for the upcoming LGE? How is the composition of your corporations going to change? What do you think? Nigel?
Sorry about that.
Yes. You heard the question?
Please repeat it. I apologize.
Okay, the question is, what are your predictions for the upcoming local government election? How do you think the composition of your corporations is going to change?
Okay, well, previously the composition was 1 to UNC, 6 to PNM. Right? It's right now the intent is 7 to UNC, 0 to PNM.
All right.
Being realistic, it may end up 6 to UNC, 0 to PNM. And that is when you'll see great change in Arima, and we'll take it straight into the general election and put them out of office.
So you are extremely confident then? Extremely confident. Extremely confident that it's going to be a victory for the UNC for the Arima Borough Corporation.
Yes.
Wonderful. So, David, if I may pass over that same question to you, what are your predictions for the upcoming local government election? How do you think the composition of your corporation is going to change?
Okay, so the composition would have already changed in terms of the EBC configuration, where we have a new seat. We had 6 districts before, we now have 7. Whereas we had 5 elected councillors, UNC, we had 1 in the past, 3 UNC aldermen and 1 PNM alderman. With 7 new districts and the same 4 aldermen to be assigned. I'm sensing and watching the wave across the other corporations with the campaigning by the UNC, which is having, as I said, that national general election feel that I've looked at the 2 new candidates in the Mearo area, Mearo North and Mearo South Guayari. New candidates, but they're taking that fight to the wire, and they're really giving the PNM opponents, so also new candidates, run for their money. With the support of our experienced candidates and other campaign personnel, we are driving that fight with the 2 new candidates. So I am sensing very strongly a total clean sweep for the UNC in the Mearo Regional Corporation, and it may most likely also be a clean sweep of the aldermen getting 4 aldermen.
Wonderful.
Worst case
And I'm
scenario, all
happy,
4 aldermen.
happy to hear. I'm really, really happy to hear all this confidence that candidates are expressing that we're going to get almost a clean sweep in both the Mayaro Regional Corporation
So let
and
me-
the Arima Borough Council.
Could I just acknowledge the new candidate for Mayaro North, Mr.
Absolutely.
Townsend, and in Mayaro South Guayagari, Delaverne Louison, and they're really on top of their game in these last few weeks here.
Okay, and I'm seeing some comments on the chat. Good night, my friends. God bless. Titi Rio Claro is in the house. Locked on from Laramie. Welcome, everybody. Right. So one comment here, Titi needs a change right now, people, and we absolutely agree with that. Specifically for you, David. Hi, David Lowe. So wonderful, guys. I want to thank all of you all who are live with us on social media. Thank you for your comments, your input, for joining us tonight. I do believe, though, that it might be time to wrap up, so I would like to give the candidates the opportunity. We are looking at 8:55. If there's anybody in the audience who would like to make a contribution, please put up your hand, right? I would like to give the candidates an opportunity to give some closing remarks. Nigel, you first.
Okay. In all honesty and fairness, I would love to thank the future Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, the Honorable Mrs. Kamala Persad-Bissessar, for giving me this opportunity. And I have met a new family. The candidates for Arima, they are wow. Voting for me, even if you are not in Arima Central and you know me and you say that, okay, you're in UNC, I'm voting for you. It's so smoothly transitioned across the board because everyone is working expeditiously. They're on point, they are loving, they are caring, they have empathy, they love their Burgesses. And I would like to say a big shout out to the 7, the Magnificent 7. That was a Western, the Magnificent 7. And we are coming with a program called A to Z for Arima. Coming to a cinema near you, A to Z for Arima. And love you guys. And I'd like to say a special good night to Leisha and Chris. Thanks for having me. Thanks for all who's listening in. We love you guys. Much love and thanks. And we'll be meeting each other in person soon.
Thank you very much, Nigel. Now I see Mr. Brian Begg has joined us. But Brian, before we go across to you, David, any closing remarks for us?
Of course, I would also like to thank the political leader, members of the screening committee for endorsing my candidacy going forward. The Member of Parliament, Mr. Parry, all members of my campaign team, and all things are fitting in this week coming here in terms of strengthening our election machinery, revision, and so on. I'd like to thank all personnel who have supported us through the years in Rio Claro South, UNC, and who will continue to do so. All the families we've met and those to meet who are anxious to see us on the ground. We love you. I mean, sincere appreciation for all the support. Thank you for consolidating the UNC support in Rio Claro South and across the constituency. Please also support all the other candidates, my fellow colleagues in Ecclesville, Rio Claro North, Beach, Charuma, Kokal Mafikin, Mayaro South, Guayagari, and Mayaro North. Let us take this victory for you, the people, and continue to build upon what we have been doing as UNC representatives for the region of Mayaro Rio Claro. We'd also like to thank the chairman who is also giving that support to the candidates out there. So, Judgment Day, Monday, 14th August, let's deliver for you, the people. Secure your representation, secure the future of Trinidad and Tobago as we get ready for the mother of all elections on 2025. And the UNC will return to government. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And as you said it, the mother of all local government elections, and it's certainly feeling like that. Yeah? If you check the activity on the ground, it's very, very vigorous. People are making comments that they haven't seen anything like this before for a local government election. Now we have with us Mr. Brian Begg, who is the legal advisor of NATEX and somebody who is very active as well in the campaigning on the ground. So Brian, you have a few words for us.
I just left that meeting there for Nigel Moses. We are up in Arima Central. We're in a very critical area where we are meeting with residents. It's been an excellent meeting. I have to say that Nigel Moses on August the 14th will be the next councillor for Arima Central. This man's work ethic is exceptional. His style, and I'm proud to work with him. We have a very good coordinating team here in Arima, along with, I have to say, some of the best candidates that I have seen in Arima in a very long time. And I have to say that come August the 14th, I can see that the Arima borough shall become UNC controlled. And as you know, we have a lot of other dynamic candidates. I just left a meeting with Lyndon DeGans in Lower Malabar. He's the councillor for Malabar North. Jazinho, or better known as Jazzy, just walked his area. We are all over in Arima. And with the team, which also has Flora Singh, myself, Vishnu Kunkun. It's an excellent working team. Vidya Mahabir. We are going to win this. We are going to win this borough. The Arima borough will be UNC control. I want to tell the people of Arima, Arima Central, you just heard your next councillor, Nigel Moses. Remember the name, Nigel Moses. On August the 14th, when you cast that ballot, you cast that ballot for Nigel Moses and the United National Congress. And when we take the borough of Arima, we shall take the constituency of Arima in the next general election. And we will make Kamla Persad Bisesa the next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. It starts with local election. It starts August 14th. The march to government starts with the Arima borough coming back to the UNC.
Mr. Brian Begg, thank you so much for that, right? And again, August the 14th, ladies and gentlemen, you know what to do. And not only on August the 14th are we going to have Mr. Nigel Moses as your councillor for Arima Central, and we are also going to have Mr. David Law as the returning councillor for Rio Claro South. Right?
Well, Nisha, I want to say my friend David Law, unfortunately, I'm not on your side there, my friend, but I have known David as long as I've known myself in this party. David Law is exceptional. David Law is a man who knows elections. David Law, my brothers and sisters of Rio Claro, Mayaro, that entire regional corporation will go UNC again. And I can see my brother, David Law, being sworn in again as councillor. He always calls me senior council, but the only council I see is that of councillor to be and to return David Law.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you very much, Senior Council.
Right. So guys, I mean, Brian has said it all, but I just want to say before I pass it over to Chris to close off for us, right? I want to thank you both for coming on the program again, Mr. David Law, the UNC local government election candidate for Rio Claro South, going to definitely be the incoming councillor on August the 14th for Rio Claro South. Mr. Nigel Moses, a very powerful candidate in Arima Central, you know, somebody who we know can take on fish and fry it, right? Nigel Moses, your UNC local government election candidate for Arima Central, and who is going to be the incoming councillor on August the 14th for Arima Central. So it was a pleasure.
But Alicia,
yes.
It's not only frying the fish, you know. I'm Moses. I parted the Red Sea. No fish will exist.
Absolutely, right. So yes, guys, thanks for joining us. It was a real pleasure. I want to congratulate you both again for being selected as very capable candidates for your districts, and wish you all the best of luck. I know our paths are going to cross again before August 14th, but On behalf of the Compass Foundation, everybody that is here, I want to wish you both the best of luck in the upcoming local government election on August the 14th. And I foresee victory for the both of you all, right?
Thank
It
you
was
very much.
certainly a pleasure. I know both of you all is the first time on our platform, but not going to be the last, as I said already. It was very interesting for me to hear about all the plans that you all have for your district should you get elected. So after August the 14th, we will be back for you all to talk about if those plans were implemented and how they're going. On that note, let me just pass it over to Chris Hussein, who will close off for us.
You know,
Thank you,
Lisha, Lisha, usually every week we come here on a Tuesday and we get into these discussions. And we find ourselves talking a lot, sometimes myself, sometimes you, we interact with the candidates as well. But tonight with these two guys, what I noticed is they carried the entire show. We didn't need to be here. So I really want to congratulate you all, of course, on your candidacy. And for everyone who would have been viewing tonight, this would have been the 5th installment of local government. And so stay tuned for more, because next week we will be discussing more things local government. For some of you all who are still on the live, thank you for staying with us. For some of you all who would look at this after it has aired, drop your comments below. We still want to know what you think. And this would have been your installment with David Law and Nigel Moses, who shared a lot. I mean, the accomplishments, Mr. Law, I'm very impressed by some of the infrastructure accomplishments, draining, retaining walls, which is a very big issue. Flooding, that's a number one issue. I think I heard Senator Lashmidial in an interview on nomination day speak about flooding throughout, and it's throughout Trinidad and Tobago at this point. Of course, Nigel, you already been on the ground, not even sworn in as a councillor as yet, but just as a candidate, and already meeting the needs of the people and going beyond the call of local government. So we want to thank you for coming on to the Compass tonight and sharing all of those things with us. And we look forward, again, as Lisha said, for you all to rejoin and for us to regroup, of course. And hopefully the next time we meet, we would introduce both of you all as councillors. So thank you very much and have a good night.
Good night, everyone, and see you again next week, Tuesday, for another episode of Critical Conversations with the Compass Foundation. So good night.
Thank you, Lisha.